Welcome, you good-looking ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 5 of the 11th most dangerous podcast in the world, the Riverfront Bengals Show. Today, we get to see what this podcast looks like after a win. We got hot starts, good vibes, some nits to pick, and then we'll pull out the crystal ball. I'm your host. He's your co-host. Let's go! We're testing out that little warm intro for the first time this week. We'll play it tomorrow and see if we like it or need some workshopping. But as I was trying to say, I am Nate Dotson. He is Joe Farfsing. Joe, how the heck are you?
I am doing fine and dandy, Nate. How are you? I see you survived Austin and the wonders of Texas.
I did. I had a little bachelor party. Survived is one way to put it. I guess everybody did make it home alive. Lots of fun was had. Many late nights were also had. So it's Wednesday here. We're recovered. We're ready to talk some football. But before we get into that, I would like to take a quick second to ask you wonderful people to go to wherever you listen to us, hit that follow button, subscribe button, whatever it is, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be there. We're also on the YouTubes at youtube.com/riverfrontcincy. Those likes, follows, subscribes, and reviews are what allow us to get out there and in front of new folks who might want to listen. So if you could just take a teeny tiny little moment to do that for us, that would be freaking awesome, just like you. So let's get right into it. The Bengals won.
Yay!
Last week, the Cincinnati Bengals beat the New York Jets to get their first win of the season, a much needed win to avoid going 0-3. It's kind of a big deal because since the NFL merger, only 7 teams have reached the playoffs after an 0-3 start, and that was 52 years ago or so, for those of you counting at home. So they needed this one pretty bad. It happened on the road. The Jets are not world beaters, but I don't think there's any feeling one should have right now other than just happiness and joy over the way the team played. And we'll find some things to point out that weren't so great, but getting that first win was huge. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, seeing them to be able to go in a victory formation, take a couple knees at the end of the game. I mean, it's what we come to expect. Again, they were in the first 2 games, should have won both of them, but get on the board, and now you're only a game behind in the division. No one's running away with it early, so
that's right. I think it's going to be an important theme. I did a little schedule watching that we'll talk about later on, and they have a really good shot over the next 8 weeks or so to potentially position themselves pretty well in the AFC North. Let's recap the game a little bit. All the attention was obviously and understandably on the offense, specifically the starts that the offense got. We talked last episode about how the slow starts were plaguing Cincinnati. That wasn't the case this time. Super quick start, an 11-play, 75-yard drive, capped with a 12-yard pass to Samaje Perine. Did a great job continuing to find space after the route was done. And it was actually a 95-yard drive if you count the penalties and a negative 5-yard rush by Joe Mixon. But what stood out the most to you in the first quarter?
Well, they won the coin toss, which they usually do, but they've at all but one time in the Zach Taylor era, every time they won the coin toss, they've deferred, taking the ball in the second half so they can try to score at the end of the first and then double dip. They took the ball first because they wanted to come out and attack, and they came out and attacked. They came out throwing the ball downfield. Third snap, as I said last week, try gadget play, something just to kind of loosen up.
Whoa. The notes say some handsome gentleman pointed that out last week.
I was looking in the mirror when I wrote that. I was thinking of someone else. Third snap from scrimmage. It was, I don't know, flea flicker or just a toss to Mixon. He threw it back to Burrow, and he threw deep downfield to Chase. It was incomplete. I think Chase should have caught it. But first off, it sets the tone that you're going to be attacking. Second off, the shot was open. I don't know. Jets played single high safety more than I think Bengals were expecting or thinking that they would. So the plays were there, and they were trying to take advantage of it. So I have no qualms with how they came out. So
yeah, that's right. Then playing that single high is something that I think that we'll have to keep an eye on. I don't know why. I know that Robert Saleh doesn't like to go too high as often as other teams, but you'd think with as effective as it had been so far, they would have tried a little more of it. And they did do a little more than they usually do later in the game. But what I really liked about it was the very, very first play. It was another thing that we touched on last week. It's exactly what I wanted to see: is a quick hit on a slant to Boyd. Effectively serves as a run play. It came out from under center, and it got the safeties moving closer to the line. And then that trick play was fun. Chase said he lost it in the air, so fair enough. If you turn the wrong way on that one, then that's going to be tough. But they still had to overcome some tough things. I think there was a 3rd and 9 and a 3rd and 8 in there, but they got off start. And you mentioned the coin toss. All the analytics say defer. Get the chance to double dip with the score before the half and a score right after. What do you think about the call? Obviously, it worked right here, but going forward, what would you expect to see from them?
I think they'll probably revert to being the more deferring and taking the ball in the second half. He was just hell bent on just coming out and punching first, and they needed it. The offense, for 2+ quarters, the offense was clicking, and doing so, that was a lot more reminiscent of the guys that took the field last year. Hit a lot of plays, intermediate routes, 10, 20 yards, and that's where Burrow's absolutely the best in the league at.
Mm-hmm.
Those shots were open, and he took them instead of just looking or waiting for the deep pass to happen and then dumping off if need be, or taking the sack. I mean, they came out and they're the aggressor. So, but that being said, going forward, I think they're going to go back to just deferring, and they've got a great defense, so you rely on them to stop and get the ball back in good position on the first drive.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think that you're probably right. Though a part of me just wants to see him continue the trend. I bet they're hoping they just lose the coin toss so they don't have to make the decision. But I know that Burrow came out and said that he would like to keep, taking the ball at the beginning. And I think when you have that little bit of momentum, there might be a psychological aspect to it where throw the analytics out, let the guys come out firing and see how that works out for you. But I know that's easier for me to say sitting here at a desk in Virginia than it is for Zach Taylor, who's, coaching for his career. Obviously, we're going to talk about Joe Burrow. He looked a lot more comfortable in the pocket this week, I thought. 23 for 36 for 275 yards and 3 touchdowns. The biggest thing for me was 0 turnovers. He protected the ball. He didn't make any of those just sort of nervous mistakes, those rushed mistakes that we saw the first couple of weeks. What really stood out to you about Joe?
Yeah, I mean, he just looked like a lot more like 2021 Joe Burrow. He was confident. He looked like he knew where the ball was going to go. There were a couple times when the pressure did kind of force him to escape the pocket, but he kept his eyes downfield instead of just chucking it or whatever. I mean, he found some guys. There's only one pass that I can think on the top of my head that he kind of threw up for grabs, and Tyler Boyd ended up having to play defensive back to keep an interception. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was. This is the guy that you should be seeing for the next 14 games. So happy to see it.
If that is the case, then I think that we're all going to be pretty happy with at least how the regular season plays out for Cincinnati. One more thing I want to talk about in the offense was T. Higgins' catch, or his non-catch, but his freaking catch. That play was insanity, and he got robbed. If you did not see it, what are you doing listening to a Bengals podcast as we recap week 3 the night before a Thursday night game? But he had Burrow throws one up in the end zone. He runs towards the corner, jumps, does a pirouette midair, catches it, comes down, gets both feet in. Allegedly, the heels touch the out of bounds line, and they call him out of bounds. But it was nonsense. It should have been a touchdown. But it was a big T. Higgins game. Man, I feel like I rave about him every week on here, but that guy will be the number 1 receiver for almost every team in the NFL. I was looking at plenty of ratings that had him as a top 10 receiver anyway, even as number 2 here. I can't say enough. I thought he had a great game, very impactful, and I don't know. I could go on about T. Higgins all day.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Besides that, I didn't see any evidence that his heels hit the ground, but they ruled it incomplete. So you need, indisputable evidence to overrule, and it wasn't there. But the other catch, what that was, I think, more impressive was the deep pass that he caught that the safety comes over and absolutely lays him out. I mean, I think I think he should have gotten tossed in the game. Just awful head honey crown of his head right under T's chin. I couldn't believe that he didn't have a concussion. I can't believe he stayed in, but held on to the ball and then came back in the next drive. I mean, it's with his size, his catch radius. I mean, he's fantastic. There's maybe 5 teams in the league that he wouldn't be the number 1 receiver on, and the other 27 teams would love to have that guy.
Yeah, that's right. Tyler Boyd also had a pretty big game. It was fairly quiet from Jamar Chase. I think there's obviously we can expect a little bit of regression this season. He's not sneaking up on anybody anymore. But he had a matchup that I know you were watching pretty closely last week from old Sauce Gardner. Tell the listeners about your relationship with Sauce, or the Cincinnati relationship with Sauce. I shouldn't say yours specifically.
I'm a huge Bearcats fan. I'm a season ticket holder to the football at Nippert Stadium. In 3 years, he started as a true freshman, and through 3 seasons, he did not allow 1 touchdown catch. And there are a lot of pass-happy offenses. I don't know if you've ever seen Memphis or the crazy offense they ran down in Central Florida. They throw the ball 70, 80 times a game. They rush to the line of scrimmage, and they snap with 30 seconds on the play clock. To go that entire time without, to have 2 or 3 pick sixes and 0 interceptions or, 0 touchdowns allowed is absolutely astounding. Number 4 draft pick, I'm a gigantic Sauce fan. I was hoping that he wouldn't make a huge impact against the Bengals. I think he did. Bengals were when he was targeted, they only caught 2 of 4 for 51 yards. The one was the big catch that he had that he got obliterated on. Another one was just another catch by T for a 6-yard out. But I mean, he blankets the guy. I mean, Bengals threw 33 times and only 4 times went his direction. So he pretty much erases that side of the field. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think if you're from Cincinnati, you should root for this young fella, and I think he's got a long and prolific NFL career ahead of him.
Plus, he's got a kick-ass name.
That's an awesome name. I wish my name was Sauce. If you guys want to start calling me Sauce Dotson, I am okay with that. But I have not earned it.
Weak sauce.
Weak sauce Dotson. That's much more appropriate. What about Jamar Chase? Did you notice anything watching the game film that stood out to you? He was a little bit quiet for his standards.
Yeah, he had a poor game, and I'll touch on it later. But there was the fumble that I think it should have been a drop. I don't think he had it secured, but they called it a fumble. He missed out on plays that he normally doesn't miss. Play down to the goal line. It was 3rd and goal from the 4. Throw it to him at the goal line. They called a reception at like the 6-inch line, and they reviewed it and went back and said that it wasn't caught anyway. And if the catch would have been good, I think the Bengals would have gone for the touchdown. Instead, McPherson kicked the chip shot. But hey, he just had a rough game. Interesting note: through 3 games, each week there's been a different leading receiver. Week 1, Chase led the team. Last week it was Higgins, and this week Boyd, it was 4 for 105. So you have 3-headed monster. You don't have to throw it to one guy every game and still be successful.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that's how the offense is going to be best utilized going forward. We do have some nits to pick on the offense, specifically the offensive line, a little bit of the running game. But let's keep the good times going right now and move on to the defensive recap, because I want to keep the positivity alive, which is 127-12, Joe. We're going to be bringing that negativity in this house. On the defensive side of the ball, what's that?
I said we'll push that negativity down the chart a little bit. We're okay for right now.
Yeah, it is coming. Don't worry. People can tune out later if they want to. The defense came to play, as they have every single week. But what was most exciting to see, at least to me, was that the turnovers came with the defense. There were 3 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. That Logan Wilson INT was just dope. There was more pressure from up front. It just seemed like an all-around pretty solid effort. And it was great to see, considering that DJ Reader was not in it for the entire game. What did you see? What stood out to you on the defense?
Well, they're now at 20 straight possessions without giving up a touchdown.
That's a
I
great
mean,
stat. Like that.
we knew they'd be a good defense. They were, especially down the stretch in the playoffs, they were a fantastic top 5 defense, and they've turned it over this year. How they hold down the fort without Reader is going to be, to be decided, but we'll see. This was the return of blackout Trey. Trey Hendrickson had himself a game and a half.
Mm-hmm.
2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. BJ Hill jumped on both fumbles for the recoveries. He was completely unblockable. He should have, I think, rented space in their backfield and was paying on a lease on that, because he was there more than Joe Flacco was. Came out today. He was the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, and well deserved. He was just fantastic.
Yeah, we mentioned a couple times how quiet he had been so far, and you're a Bengals fan for a long time. You can't help but start thinking the worst, like, oh no, we don't deserve this. But then a week like that happens, and he was dominant, just absolutely dominant. If we can see that Trey Hendrickson for the rest of the week, it's gonna take some of that sting of losing DJ Reader away a little bit. Who else did we talk about? I think we need to talk about Cheeto. Cheeto Awuzie leads the league in defensive EPA when targeted. This season, he's 11 of 33, 11 catches on 33 targets for 101 yards. And he's going to have a tough assignment next week. But we'll get into that a little bit. Did anybody else stand out in the defense that you want to point out before we go up to our 3 up, 3 down segment?
It was actually, if you look at the top 6 graded players on PFF, 5 were all on the defensive line. Hubbard had a really good game. BJ Hill had himself a good game. He had a half sack and then 2 fumble recoveries. Cam Sample had a really good game. He had a sack and some pressures and everything, and he was all over the field splashing when he was in the game. So it was a group effort. Yet Cheeto had himself a really good game. Seeing Hilton and Von Bell were both blitzing coming off, putting pressure off the edge was awesome to see. And then, Logan Wilson with a beautiful play. I'll discuss about that a little bit later when we talk about tomorrow's game. But yeah, it was team effort, absolute team effort on the defense, top to bottom.
Yeah, well, since we're talking about defense and we're moving on to our 3 up, 3 down, we should start with the man that we have. Gosh, it was great in real time. It was even better on the film. First up in our 3 up is obviously Trey Hendrickson. I think you noted here 94.7 pass rush grade against the Jets, the highest single game pass rush grade by a Bengals defensive lineman since 2006. That is just madness.
Yeah, that's absolutely doing it. Yeah, that's no let up and just
what else? 20 sacks and 20. Yeah, absolutely. He has 20 sacks in 23 games with Cincinnati. I thought that was also just a crazy number. I don't think the league knows how good this defense is, and they definitely don't know how good Trey Hendrickson is, but they're about to find out. What else did you see from Trey?
It's like I said, he absolutely wrecked the game plan. Even on run plays, he's chasing down from the backside, or he's holding the edge. I see him dropped into coverage a couple of times, and he actually had a decent score, decent grade everywhere. Even his coverage grade was pretty good. So he was literally did everything that you would want and expect a defensive end to do. That's he kind of did the Sam Hubbard role of doing everything. So
yeah, it was just so much fun to see. I hope we get more of that this week. We're going to need it. Next up, BJ Hill. Now, you watched the film a little closer on BJ Hill, so go ahead and take this one.
Yeah, he had a really bad week last week against Dallas, and he rebounded rebounded big time. 6 pressures, again, half sack. Could have had others if Henderson didn't beat him to it. 2 recoveries, and that's exactly what you need from your 3 technique defensive tackle. Someone who's going to put pressure up the middle, and he's going to bounce your quarterback to the outside to where Hubbard, where Hendrickson, where blitzing linebacker or safety is going to clean up. So that's kind of the role what Ogunjobi did last year, and Hill in limited time. They brought him back. Hopefully this is the start of him getting back on a roll like he was last year, because it's needed. And the Bengals aren't deep on edge rushers, so whatever push they can get from the middle is definitely going to help them tremendously in the long run.
Yeah, so encouraging to see. Our third guy up, It's got to be the boy, Samaje Perine. Sort of overshadowed the lead back, Joe Mixon, last week. What'd you notice from Samaje?
He's an absolute bowling ball. He's not the fastest guy, but he is. I don't know what his height's listed at. He looks like he's 4'2" and about 260 pounds. Just this stubby guy that just runs, makes a decision. It doesn't dance around, but hits the hole and just goes through it. That last drive the Bengals had, it ended in a missed field goal, but Jets knew they were going to run. They had one receiver on the field. The Bengals did. Most of the time it was Stanley Morgan or Mike Thomas, who are only in there to block. He still got 9 carries for 47 yards. I mean, that's averaging 5+ yards a carry. That'll get it done. That's big boy ball right there. On his touchdown catch, he chipped the end and then released, and then found out they were in a scramble drill, turned around, found the quarterback, and found an open spot, caught it, turned around, touchdown. He's a guy that knows he's a pro. He knows what he needs to do. He's awesome on special teams. He's going to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, and after watching some of the tape in the first couple of weeks, the Bengals receivers and backs weren't necessarily running that scramble drill quite as long and as well as you would like to see. It almost seems like they were confused too that the play, hadn't gotten anything yet. But that was not the case last week, and no example better than that. He looked better than Joe Mixon. He was just taking what was given him. He didn't try to do anything extra. And at first, I was thinking, in real time, it's like, oh yeah, he got 9 carries for 47 yards in that last drive. But maybe the Jets were just ready to go home. Maybe they were tired. But there were still 10 minutes on the clock, or over 10 minutes on the clock when that drive started, and it took around 8 minutes off the clock. Just a demoralizing drive. If he's going to do like that, I don't think he's going to see too many more snaps. Based on what the game script would have been if Mixon would have had a fine game. But it is sort of comforting knowing that, that was there, that he can do that, and if things aren't going well, you can mix it up a little bit. But
yeah, I mean, he came up huge in the AFC Championship game that caught the was it a 41 yarder on a little dump off, took it to the house right before halftime, and gave him all the momentum that they needed. That led them to the comeback in the second half. So he just makes plays. He's a good ball player.
Yeah, nobody's arguing that. But I guess that's kind of where the positivity, the good vibes have to end for a minute. Let's talk about our 3 down. Our first man down is the aforementioned Ja'Marr Chase. Just go. I know you've got some thoughts.
This should have been a game that he could have had a huge game, because again, they weren't playing the cover 2 or the deep Tampa 2 shell. They were giving the Bengals a chance to throw it deep. He dropped. I guess he lost the flea flicker throwback, whatever. He lost that one. The catch/fumble. Again, I think it was a drop, but still, that's an easy, you catch it and secure. That's easy. The drop on the goal line that was ruled a catch, but he wasn't even where he was supposed to be. He was outside of the goal. It's 3rd and goal. I mean, make sure you're in the end zone to catch the damn thing. So, just a rough game. I mean, it happens. He's still just a kid. He's only 20 games plus playoffs deep in his career. So I'm assuming he'll be right back on the horse, and he'll probably lead the team in receptions and yards this week. So
yeah, I could not be less worried, but it just seemed like something was a little bit off. And you don't know, these are finely tuned athletes. You get a bad night of sleep, they can, have a big impact. I don't know. I'll make excuses all day for Ja'Marr Chase. Next up for I guess the second man down, you wanted to highlight the entire 2022 rookie class. What's going on there?
Not a lot. Again,
cheating, by the way.
But when you consider the impact, it's less than one person. So I mean,
good point.
I think Dex was in on 7 snaps last week. Again, didn't accumulate any stats. 13 total snaps in 3 weeks. Again, I don't know if that's him. I don't know, or just that him not being ready and that they're not comfortable with where he is yet, or just game plan and they're waiting for the right time to unleash him. Either way, again, I talked about it last week. I think I talked about it after week 1. As much as they hyped him up, as awesome as he played in the preseason, he looked like he was ready for a huge role, and haven't seen anything of it. This might be a really good week for it coming up tomorrow. So here's saying, the defense has played well, so it's not like they're needing him, but that guy, that guy's a weapon. So it'd be nice to see
Yeah,
him unleashed.
and he brings something incredibly important to the defense. Well, theoretically,
Yeah.
that they'll need tomorrow, which is speed.
Yeah.
He did have a season high 14 special team snaps, so there's that.
Yay.
Get pumped.
Yay. And he's versatile. And this is with Lou Anarumo defense. Absolutely, he wants positionless football. He wants someone at every level of the defense that can rush the passer, that can tackle, that can drop back, cover, in zone or man to man, and he can do all that. So it's when he gets in, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm not expecting to make a big impact, but we've yet to see anything from him. On round twos, Cam Taylor-Britt, he's been on injured reserve with the core issue. Still no word on when he's going to be coming back. He's still got a few more weeks before he can even be active, so you're not getting anything from there. Round three was Zach Carter, who was the end turned to backup 3 technique defensive tackle. He had 1 tackle this week. Cordell Volson has been. Everyone's been watching him since game 1. He's been up and down. If he's the weak link on your offensive line, that's fine, but he's still, a rookie offensive line playing a position that he never played before. So that's, 5th round, Tyson Anderson, safety out of Toledo. He has been inactive each week. Now, they're deep in the defensive backfield, so it's not a huge surprise, but you're just getting practice reps out of him. And then Jeffrey Gunter was the defensive end that they 7th round pick. He was inactive weeks 1 and 2, and then he had 7 total snaps last week. Again, no snaps or no stats, so they're just not getting anything. It's early, it's week 3, but when you have guys that are expected to come in, and make an impact, when Volson's the only guy who's really, he's the only one who's getting any playing time. You wish, you would hope that you'd see a little more from the other guys. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. You don't necessarily expect rookies to be world beaters, but you would like to see something, especially from the early round picks. PFF has, let me find a stat here. What was it? Hill is currently the 31st ranked first rounder in the NFL this season. So of the 32 first round draft picks, he is the 2nd worst so far. But we don't even know. You don't know if he's good or bad because he hasn't seen the field.
He could be worse. He could be a 32. Who is number 32? He was the 31st pick in the round, so that's fitting his draft position, maybe.
That's true. I guess they got it right. Our 3rd man down is Hayden Hurst. He was just kind of not doing anything. I'd heard that he was a little bit banged up. Of course, it's the NFL, so you're always banged up. I don't know. I guess I never expected him to go to a Pro Bowl, but you would like to see a little more, especially because he does have that little wow factor. I think he has the ability to make those energy plays that really get a team going and get a little momentum, and it wasn't there at all last week.
Yeah, he had 2 targets, 1 catch the entire game, and I don't know if it's. I haven't tracked every single route to see to see where he's running, if they're just utilizing him different than what I thought they would. But it seems like last year they ran Uzama more down the seam, more down the middle of the field, and not really seeing that with Hurst. Seems like he's catching a lot of stuff or being on the outside, on outs, and things of that nature. So maybe there's more in store for him, but I was hoping and expecting to see a little more from him, especially with the way that the offense has struggled. Tight end's a nice outlet, especially someone who's a physical matchup advantage, no matter if he's playing a linebacker or a defensive back. So.
Right. Yeah, you'd like to see more, but then again, if he has terrible statistical games and they keep winning 27-12, then Hayden Hurst, I'm sorry for your fantasy owners, but we'll take it. So yeah, that's the end of our 3 out, 3 down segment. We're going to move on to extra points. The one big thing that I would like to talk about is something that we have to. We would love not to talk about this ever again, but the offensive line was still pretty rough. 3 of the 5 linemen in week 3 graded out below a 55. No one above 70. All 5 starters allowed multiple pressures. Thankfully, Joe Burrow handled it. And there were no superstar pass rushers on the other side either. This was the Jets. There was no Micah Parsons. There was no TJ Watt. And Burrow still got hit 9 times on top of the 2 sacks, and there's no real run game to speak of. I think that we get pretty happy after a win, and we should. But until this gets fixed, until this gets worked out, we're going to have to keep talking about it. What do you see in the O-line?
Yeah, a lot of the same old story. They looked a lot better earlier in the game with pass blocking. Burrow seemed to have a lot more time. I don't know if it was just catching the Jets off guard with coming out and just being as aggressive as they were. But yeah, as the game wore on, he was getting more pressure and getting flushed, and you could tell by his stats is he had 164 yards in the first quarter. And the rest of the game was only 120 or so. So it was, definitely tells the game went on. They made adjustments or the line just wore down. So I saw something. It was from Orlando Brown on the Chiefs where he said last year it took them 6 or 7 games because they also had a completely rebuilt line. They drafted Creed Humphrey. They brought in Orlando Brown, another, similar thing. They brought in 3-4 guys, and it took them week 6, week 7 for everything to coalesce and to start gelling. And, what's Dave Lab's thing? Your line is like a fist. You need all 5, players working in one for strength. It takes time. Again, everyone's talking about they should have played in the preseason. Even if they played in the preseason, they'd still be struggling. There's a lot of communication. And, when the defense shifts, when you change the protection calls, you've got to know that guy, you've got to know that the guy next to you knows the call and is, not that these guys aren't pros, but I think it's just a lot of it is just comfortability and trust in the guys next to him. And it's just not there yet. It'll get there. They're not going to be the Washington Redskins hogs from the 80s, but they'll be fine. The run game is a totally different issue. I think that's part of the running backs issue too, but it's that's something that's concerning. They're 3.3 yards of carry over through the first 3 weeks. Again, especially they're seeing a lot of light boxes, 5-6 guys in the box because they have guys playing back to watch out for the pass, and they're not getting anywhere against 5-on-5, 5 linemen on 5 defensive players, and you still can't get a hole. That's an issue. Or your running back is missing the hole.
Yeah, well, let's get into that a little bit. I had that up next. Joe Mixon. He doesn't look the same. He doesn't look the same as he did last year. He's never been the most explosive guy, but he's looked better every other year of his career so far. I don't know. Do you think we're going to see less of him next week? The run game was more effective when he was not the runner. He was 12 rushes for 24 yards, and one of those was also a 9-yarder. So if you take that one out, he was at 11 rushes for 15 yards. Like you said earlier, P. Ryan was 9 for 47 yards. I don't know, man. It wasn't good. And the first week 1, he looked solid. He looked fine. I think that was about kind of where, if he has those kind of games, people are going to be happy with it. But the last 2 weeks, especially last week, not only did he look bad, but then he was visibly frustrated at points late in the game and after the game. How do you see their usage of him? Have you picked up on anything, heard anything from your little birdies? Any conspiracy theories? We can go feelings, no facts. We can just make up some stuff.
Oh, I've got him. I can bring out the whole tinfoil thing. There's no reason to think that his usage is going to go down. They're going to, he's going to get, if things play out, the way that they want him to, he's going to get 20, 25 carries this game. They're, still going to feature him in the pass game, but it's just been rough. And I noticed there was, they had 1st and goal at the 4-yard line. This is actually the second down play. He gets a handoff up the middle. He's got a gaping hole straight ahead of him. There's one defender. The entire left side of the line has Volson Williams has completely walled off. You've got Alex Kappa ahead of you with one defender, Hayden Hurst coming across the formation, and he decides to bounce it outside where there's 3 defensive players, and he gets tackled for no gain. You or I could have walked into the end zone untouched, and he's missing it. I don't know. Maybe the play was supposed to bounce it outside, but as someone who supposedly got the vision that he has, there's a gigantic, go off script. Well, you take the ball, you find a hole, and you run for daylight. So,
those are the holes that.
Go ahead.
Those are the holes that Samaje was taken advantage of. He's not going to do a ton after that, but he was at least finding those. A stat that I saw that was pretty interesting, I thought, and can be taken a couple different ways, was that for Joe Mixon, first contact was made in the backfield. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was 20% more often this season than last. So we've talked about Joe Burrow seeing ghosts back there. Last week, it looked like Joe Mixon was seeing ghosts. Like he's trying to do too much because he's expecting to get hit right away as it is. So he's not even waiting for any holes to open up. He's just trying to take advantage of one defender coming at him and break something big. But you have to think that they've been in the film room ever since Sunday. He saw what was working, saw what he was doing wrong, and hopefully he adapts and learns from there.
Yeah, he's running two horizontal sideline to sideline. Just pick a hole and go. I don't know if he's trying to find the big, gain. And again, he's getting a lot of contact, getting a lot of penetration in the backfield. So it's not like there's every play, there's a 20-yard run out there and he's picking the wrong spot. But he's just not. I don't know if it's too much patience and just needs to go, just go upfield, turn the shoulders. But I'm confident they'll get it fixed, eventually. But I was also on team cut Mixon before the season anyway because they could use the cap space and you don't pay running backs a second contract because they're fungible.
That's a pretty fair point, but I'm going to vehemently disagree with you because he's wearing the right uniform. So I'm happy to have it. Another thing that I think is worth pointing out, and actually before we go on, they're going to need him to have a good game tomorrow or today when people are listening to this. Ball control and clock management with a team that can score as quickly as Miami is going to be a really, really important part of the game plan, I would think. So if he has another really slow start, it wouldn't shock me to see a little more Samaje, maybe a little more Chris Evans, the Chris Evans that we were promised. I don't know. But yeah, after that, the only other thing I felt like we should bring up real quick was that the thing that you and I talked about last week. You know what? I think Zach Taylor, those guys need to just call us. Brian Callahan, give us a shout. We know what's going on. 10 of the first 12 plays they ran were out of shotgun. They weren't being so predictable from under center. As a matter of fact, the two plays that were not under center, one was play action and the other one was a trick play. So a lot of that sort of predictability that we were complaining about the previous couple of weeks was out the window this week, and they scored early, they scored often, and really set the tone for the rest of the game. So you love to see that.
Yeah, I don't have any problem at all with the play calling this past week. Again, I mean, when both times under center, neither of them are straightforward run plays. That's a look that, teams are used to seeing them run the ball when they're under center and they play action and then, which, again, draws the safeties and hopefully opens up the big pass play for you. So,
yeah. And it has a carryover throughout the rest of the season. Now, when every team is watching game film, they have to know that, oh crap, this is something that can't just load up anymore the way they would have. So good job.
Yeah.
Zach Taylor.
Yeah, everything is setting something up for later in the season. You put something on film just to get them to think about it. So when they see the same formation, they see a tight end motion into the formation, their quick recall. Oh, well, they've run this play 3 times and it was, quick, skinny post, whatever. And then they do something totally different out of it. That's all that it is. It's setting up these plays for 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks down the road that, hopefully those games mean something. So it's just a long, a long game, long chess game is all that it is. So,
yeah, it is. And man, we've been here 40 minutes already, and we're still on week 3. I love it. Maybe we should break these episodes up and do one right after the game and then another one before next week's. I don't know. If you like that, listeners, sound off in the comments. Let us know.
I think more of us is a good thing. So whether it's every single day, just a little tidbit here or there, just so we become part of your daily ritual. So
yeah, we can just pop on, literally say hello, wish you a happy Tuesday. Boom. Be done. So we got some news of the week. It's just kind of where we look at our injury updates. The big one, the one on everybody's mind, DJ Reader. What are you hearing, sir?
The only thing that came out is he will miss significant time. Probably better part of a month. If it was anything longer, they would have presumably put him on IR with designation to return. They didn't do that, so I think they're assuming that it'll be, that he'll miss maybe 3-4 weeks and then be okay. Hurry back. Even though they still have a strong defense, and even if they can weather the storm without him, he's just that damn good of a player. He's it's like the Reds taking Joey Votto out of your lineup. Yeah, granted, they're all terrible, and the Reds are all terrible. But you take out the big dog, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how good the guys are around you. You still want the you still you still need that guy. You still want that guy back because you're just not whole or not as good as you're supposed to be.
Yeah, my note was DJ Reader. Yikes. You could argue he's the team's best defensive player. I'm going to be just thankful that it wasn't worse. It was not season ending, but also I wouldn't get surprised if, depending on how the season's going, they don't rush him back. And, that bye week is 6 weeks away. So if they can find a way to, stay above water, let him get that extra week to heal up, then that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, they'll have Josh Tupou will start in his spot. Tupou's been on the roster for a couple years. He's a decent run stopper. They'll bring someone up from the practice squad, either Dominique Davis or Tyler Shelvin. I hope Davis, because Shelvin's proven that he's not really worth the roster spot. If he can come back in 4 weeks and then just keep him on a pitch count, 4 or 5 weeks and keep him on a pitch count for a week or so, and then take that take the bye week and ramp him up for the stretch run. Hopefully, he'd be full health by the time they get back. So,
yeah. And then it looks like Joe Mixon got a little banged up there at the end of the game. Do you think that was anything we need to monitor, or is he going to be fine?
Everything's. Everyone said that he's good to go. Also, T. Higgins had a little toe issue. I was completely unaware of it. Someone mentioned something in the Slack channel. I'm like, oh no, that was Mixon with the foot or ankle issue. But no, I guess he had a toe issue, but he's completely full of participants, so they'll be at full strength everywhere but Reader. So,
and it's a big loss. Get well soon, DJ. That's all we can say around here. So we should look at the standings real quick. It's just a bunch of mediocrity in the AFC North. Let's see here, the Bengals still in fourth. 1-2. They're just one game back thanks to Pittsburgh being terrible. I don't know, man. Like the Bengals could be 3-0. Could easily be 3-0. Thankfully that nobody's running away with it, and there is plenty of time and opportunity for them to stay right in the thick of things. And you will obviously keep your fingers crossed that nobody does run away with it. It all starts tomorrow, though. We're going to know a lot more Thursday night. The Miami Dolphins come to the Queen City, where surprisingly, at least to me, Cincinnati is 3.5-point favorites, at least last I saw. What are your initial thoughts on the Dolphins-Bengals matchup?
Yeah, they were at, I think, 4-point favorites on a couple of spots. 3.5 is what they opened at. But I'm surprised at the Miami team that we're seeing. Was not a big Tua guy. 2019, when it was tank for Tua and the Bengals were god awful, I was not really that excited of the proposition. I was glad when Burrow, came to the forefront. Like, oh, good, we can take that guy instead. If you look at how he's doing it this year, he's doing the exact same plan, or the exact same game plan that the Bengals pulled off last year. He's just hitting everything, intermediate routes. He's been deadly on the deep ball, and I need to find my numbers here, but I totally lost them. This is awesome podcasting here with the dead air.
Well, let me step in real quick, because I don't believe in Tua. I think the jury is still very much out. He might be good. He might end up being great. But I've watched a decent bit of Dolphins football so far, and he's had a lot of success on the deep ball statistically, but a lot of those throws were nothing to do with him. He actually threw 3 or 4 yards behind the incredibly fast Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Other quarterbacks, any quarterback in the league would have made those throws. I think that the Dolphins are the same way the Bengals could be 3-0. The Dolphins could very easily, that ridiculous comeback to win one, and they, with one more second on the clock, they lose to the Bills last week. They could be 1-2. I think they are a very, very solid team, a very solid offense, but I'm not sold on Tua yet. For those at home, Burrow versus Tua that Joe talked about, the number 1 draft pick and the number 5 draft pick in the 2020 draft, their first matchup in the pros. They split their matchups in college. That is not going to be the case very long because Joe Burrow is going to shove it up his keister. I just wanted to say keister.
I'll allow it. Yeah, I found it. On passes 20 yards and deeper, Tua is 9 of 13 for 303 yards. Now, I haven't watched a lot of their film to see, where the ball placement is. And yeah, you've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So having those guys with that speed can definitely make up for it, but you still got to get the ball there. Again, I don't think this is who he is. I think he's going to be a hot and cold quarterback. But I mean, you can't. I mean, he's on a heater right now, and Bengals are facing down the barrel of it. So, even bad quarterbacks can have huge games. Look at Mike White against the Bengals last year. So, he's definitely talented. And again, I think he'll come back to earth. But you have those weapons around you, and that's why they've got those weapons to let him be a point guard and let him just dish the ball out. So,
yeah, that's a fair point. And another thing that you pointed out is that Miami is a fairly unbalanced offense. You've got them 31st?
31st in apparently. Yeah, 31st.
Running the ball. Second in passing, same 3.3 yards per carry as the Bengals. I think that is really going to, if you're going to miss DJ Reader for a game, this is not a bad game to do it. Miami is not a prolific running offense. I don't know. How do you feel? What are your keys? Let's get right into our 3 keys to this game. What do you have up first?
First one is to find a way to fix the run game. They're not running well off the left side, only 2.9 yards on runs, off the left tackle, off the left end, 2.6 yards off to the right side. Between the tackles, they're actually a lot more efficient than I thought. 4.1 yards, which is, that's more ideal. I mean, that's you expect your explosive ones to be off the end. Get a lineman out in space and find the open field. But they need to find a way to be effective. And again, that's on the tackles who have struggled. The tight ends haven't been especially, haven't been very good blocking on the perimeter either so they can bounce it outside, but find a way to fix it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And we talked about how important the running game is going to be, that clock management. I think that's Burrow and Tua, matching each other in an air assault and just deep ball for deep ball will be a lot of fun, really entertaining for what I expect to be a pretty raucous Cincinnati crowd. But I do not think that is the best strategy for them to win this game. Up next, you got Cloud Tua's passing lanes. Get into that a little bit.
He's listed at 6'1". He was 6 foot flat at the combine, unless he grew an inch. I highly doubt that. You need to keep pressure in his face, and you need to keep him in the pocket so that he's not going to be able to find the open lanes. I mean, he's not Justin Herbert at 6'6", where he can see over top. He can find those little gaps. So you keep him hemmed in so he can't find those deep balls. He has to find an outlet or swing pass. They have the Greg Little's their right tackle. He is the worst rated tackle of all starting tackles in the entire league, left or right, including the guys on the Bengals. So that right there tells you how poor he's been. So absolutely, they're going to have to slide protection his way, which is going to leave the left tackle on an island. So you got Trey Hendricks in. They're getting, they're finding more ways to get Cam Sample, BJ Hill, pressure. So keep it up. Just keep, blitz if you have to. Keep guys in his face so that he can't get outside and find the deep ball.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely huge. The other key that I wanted to point out was they need to win the matchups of the wide receiver twos. A lot of talk to be had about both teams' wide receivers. We've talked at length about Cincinnati's. Tyreek Hill, one of the fastest players and most prolific receivers in the game over the last several years. Jalen Waddle might be one of the 2 or 3 fastest players in the entire NFL. So you expect them to do most of the damage, but it's going to come down to who's on the other side, who's lining up against them. So for T. Higgins, the matchups I was seeing had Nick Needham lining up against him, and Higgins is a 76.3 rating versus Needham's 52.3. And the other one I had Jalen Waddle going up against Eli Apple. Now, that makes the most sense to me, especially with the way Cheeto's been playing. But Tyreek Hill had some comments immediately after their win against Buffalo about Eli Apple. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, this goes back to, Eli Apple isn't shy about self-promotion. He's been bounced from 2 different teams and, found home with the Bengals last year and had a pretty good season, but he still likes to run his mouth a little bit. Especially after the AFC Championship game, there was a little bit of jawing back and forth about Hill. Eli Apple said that he was going to buy him some Super Bowl tickets so he could watch the Bengals, and so that came back. Hill's looking forward very much to facing Apple again, and a little bit of a war back and forth. I think Jesse Bates, I can't find his quote I'm looking for, but he had a nice final word about he was just salty that he had to see him at the Super, that he had to sit and watch him play the Super Bowl last year. But I honestly, I don't. This is a game. This is definitely a Lou Anarumo game. He is the master of disguising. I don't know if for those at home that have the Athletic, have a subscription to the Athletic, that definitely need to read an article they had about Lou Anarumo and just this coverages that he disguises. You don't know who's covering who, where they're coming from. You don't know if a lineman's going to drop into coverage, if they're going to be on Logan Wilson's interception. He was at the line of scrimmage faking a blitz until he dropped straight back 30 yards, almost 30 yards to make that pick. So it's I don't think it's going to be Eli Apple one-on-one versus the Cheetah or Waddle or whomever. Again, this is why I think this might be a good game to get Dax Hill's feet wet, because he's got the speed and versatility to play. Maybe play Hill or I guess him playing Von Bell in the box as more of a linebacker and dropping Dax back as more traditional 2 deep safety to just to get more speed and more versatility. So again, I think this is definitely a game. First, Bengals in the second half are going to play a lot better versus them in the first half once they get them feeling out, because they're great at making adjustments. So chess match will be interesting.
Yeah, that was going to be the next thing I say, was that this, if nothing else, the roster construction of these 2 teams is going to lead to some really interesting matchup games between the 2 coaching staffs. And it's going to be fun, man. It's on Amazon Prime. I think it's going to be on local TV too. The Amazon was nice enough to share those rights. I have heard that there is just like an army caravan of Amazon vehicles all around Cincinnati. They issued some absurd number of press credentials. I can take or leave Kirk Herbstreit as an NFL announcer, but the production value is great. It's a lot of fun to watch. And Cincinnati is going to be buzzing, but we have a question about that later before we go into too much. I can't wait to watch it, but we have to do what we do every week. We got to make some predictions. Miami Dolphins at Cincinnati Bengals Thursday night. Who do you have?
I'll let you go first, and I'll take the walk off.
Oh, all right. I got. Obviously, we have to pick the Bengals to win. I do also feel like they're going to win, though. I think the Miami's riding a little bit high. They are a fluky 3-0, and the Bengals are a fluky 1-2. I've got them winning 31-29, high-scoring affair. So the Dolphins will cover, but Evan McPherson, a game-winning field goal as time expires. I think they're just going to have to score a lot to keep up. So 31-29, you heard it here first.
That might be a scoregami. I don't know if that'll definitely be a unique score. I've got Bengals 27-24. Burrow having it's similar script to last week. I've got Burrow having a good game, maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns. Running game, I think, is still going to struggle a little bit. I think it's going to get better. I think Mixon's going to be is going to be better, but again, 27-24. McPherson with the field goal late. I'm not going to say at the gun. I'll say they have to hold on to a last-minute scramble drill by Miami to hold them off the scoreboard. So,
well, either way, it's if either one of those outcomes happens, it's going to be entertaining as hell, and I can't freaking wait.
That place is going to be rocking. Thursday night game, white out. They're
we didn't talk about the jerseys and the helmets.
They've got the all white helmets, jerseys. They painted the end zone and the midfield logo, so all the orange is now white. That's going to look awesome. Fans are all going to be wearing white, waving white towels. It's going to be a big alumni game. They've inducting. We'll try that again. Isaac Curtis and Willie Anderson into the Ring of Honor. Andrew Whitworth will be there. He's part of the pregame crew for Amazon. So the crowd will be loud. It'll be raucous. I live 10 miles away, and I'll probably hear the stadium bouncing from out my window.
I have heard that things will be kicking off at friend of the podcast, at the Holy Grail, starting at noon. So some people are not going to make it to the game. Some people are not going to make it to the game.
No, I hope they give them some pillows and blankets to keep them cozy while they're sleeping by kickoff.
I love it. All right, let's move on to our next segment. It is the return of Random Facts About a Random Bingo. We really need to get a producer so we can have some nice music or something going on right there instead of me just sounding like an asshole. But this is all you, Joe. Take it away.
Asshole is as asshole does. No, I think we need Morgan Freeman to do the voiceover and the narration. That would be awesome. Okay. So this week's random Bengal of the week is Mike Thomas, safety, number 31, Uncle Mike, as he's affectionately known. These are all true facts, no fake one that you got to ascertain. He was a sociology major at University of Stanford, which, if you're not aware, is a very, very, very highly achieving academic school. In 2020, he was awarded the Ira D. Hall Award by Stanford University for his extraordinary commitment to social justice, community organizing, and public service in a local, national, and/or global context. He was the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee from the Texans that year. So does a fantastic job in the community. Second fact, he was college free agent, signed in 2012 by the 49ers, right around the corner from Palo Alto. Stayed on their practice squad until late 2013 when Miami plucked him. Third thing, in his very first game, picked off won the AFC Defensive Player of the Week award. First game for Miami, picked off Tom Brady with 7 seconds left to secure a 4-point win. If that's not announcing your presence, I don't know what else is. You spend almost 2 full years on the practice squad, just basically being a blocking dummy and working to make the starters. You get your opportunity, and that's how you repay it. That's a hell of a way to show that you belong.
Yeah, I love it. Because Mike, don't call me Michael Thomas. And if the Bengals make the Super Bowl again, he can be the one bet that I don't remember what it pays out, but it's that crazy bet they do every year of the most random player to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. He's going to be my pick. Next up, I've got my parlay of the week again. And this week, we're going with a T. Higgins touchdown, a Raheem Mostert touchdown, and a Joe Burrow over 250 yards. As of recording, that was paying out plus 996. So you get a nice little earn there, and that is fake dollars. We don't actually gamble. This is for the devil. That would be a juicy way to do it. All right. Next up, we got a little viewer mail. No, let's get into our weekly pick'em. That seems to be a logical next step. The standings so far are, let me get it right here. Joe is leading at 27 wins, 19 losses. And then that one stupid tie that I'm going to quit mentioning because ties. And then I am right behind at 25 and 21. And then our leader from our listeners is Joey Gaditza. And we do that week to week. Joey went 8-8 last week. He is our friend from Canada and actually a Commanders fan, but we forgive him. We are slowly luring him away from the Dirty Commanders. We know him because he is a active member of our Riverfront Reds family, beloved member.
I promise have my bass guitar out just in his honor. He is the bassist of a mid-tempo punk rock band from the plains of Canada, Rough Sleeper. Check him out.
Love it.
Coming to a Canadian town near you if you're in Saskatchewan.
And if Joey ends up winning the most weeks as we go about this throughout the season, then the swag, the merch he's going to get is a Bengals jersey, and we'll fully steal him from those stupid Commanders. Because who wants to be a fan of Dan Snyder and the stupid Commanders?
Boo.
All right, so we actually agree on almost all of these, everyone but two. So we're going to run through all those agreements really quick, and then we can get into the two we disagree on. One of them is me just drawing a line in the sands. First up, obviously, we both picked the Bengals over the Miami Dolphins. Next up, you and I also both picked Minnesota Vikings over the New Orleans Saints. Kind of similar to some of the reasonings that we used for both of those teams last week. Minnesota at least has the ability to be an explosive offense, and I think New Orleans is just bad. And when you have a bunch of fractured vertebrae, that's not a good thing for your quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they look kind of a train wreck. I kind of expected them to challenge a little bit in the South, but not happening. So Vikings seem like an easy pick.
Yeah, they were kind of a hot team in the offseason and preseason, but not so far. Next up was actually a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. The New York Jets at Pittsburgh Steelers. We both went Steelers, and I don't know about you, but I just figured that when both teams are garbage, go with the coaches. And I think that Mike Tomlin's probably a little bit better of a coach.
Yeah, at least at this stage in Robert in Sully's career. Zach Wilson's first game back, so he's definitely going to show some rust. He's not going to be as bad as Joe Flacco was last week, but Pittsburgh's defense is still strong. I'm going to predict that Mitchell Trubisky gets benched at some point. They're going to bring in Kenny Baby Hands Pickett to finish the game up, bring the win home.
If you can find odds on that prop, please tweet them at me. It's at NC Dotson32 because that would be a fun one. Next up, Cleveland Browns at Atlanta Falcons. We both win Atlanta. I think that people got a little high on Cleveland because they looked pretty good week one, and then it's just been bad news kind of ever since. And Atlanta's plucky. You know, Marcus Mariota is not a great quarterback. He's not making any Pro Bowls, but he's fun to watch. He can, get outside and do things. They have to get Kyle Pitts involved at some point. I don't know. That's all I got to say about that one.
Yeah, there's not too much to say. I think the Browns should win, but I don't think they will. Brissett's been pretty careful with the ball so far this year, and I think at some point that's gonna course correct, and I'm gonna bet this year Falcons still aren't very good, and I'm still hoping ill performance, not injury to Mariota, so I can see my boy Des Ridder. But I want to see the Falcons win. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, I'm with you. We got Seattle Seahawks at Detroit Lions. Both of us went Detroit. For me, Seattle is really, really bad. They're in that sort of Pittsburgh, I don't know, Jets sort of mold to me. Detroit is not that good, but they're fun. Their offense puts up a lot of points. They're one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. They're at home. Jared Goff is not terrible. If he has a little bit of protection, he's actually pretty decent. And the Seahawks defense has been pretty bad so far. So I like the Lions there.
Yeah, same. Lions are fun. They need to figure out how to win. If they can figure out how to close games out, because they've been doing a good job hanging around. If they can figure out how to close games out, I think they can contend for one of the last wild card spots. They've got a lot of talent. It's just putting it all together. They still have Jared Goff at quarterback, which isn't great. So maybe they should lose and get a high draft pick and challenge for Bryce Young, or it was Will Levis, the guy from Kentucky, but I think they're kind of stuck with him.
Yeah, at least for the next year or two. Up next, we got Buffalo at Baltimore. This could be a really, really fun game. I'll certainly be tuning in just because of the AFC North. I want Buffalo to win, and we both picked Buffalo to win. I think that they're just a little more fine-tuned. They got a better – neither team has a great running game. I think Baltimore's defense has been a little lackluster so far, so I can see Buffalo just scoring at will. But I think it's going to be a really fun game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll entertaining, at least for sure. Baltimore's defense is just bad. There's no way around it. Buffalo did not play well last week. they're going to come out, try to take it out on Baltimore. And it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I see Buffalo winning by 10, 14 points.
Yeah. The next game on the list is one that I will probably not tune into whatsoever and will not be a beautiful game. Is the Los Angeles Chargers at Houston Texans. Gross. The Chargers, everybody, they were a popular Super Bowl contender pick for a lot of people. Everybody's already crowned Justin Herbert as the greatest quarterback in the history of the universe. I think he's very, very good, but until they get rid of that team doctor, I won't trust anything that the Chargers do. And Houston is just awful again, despite me wanting to believe that they're actually kind of fun. So I think the Chargers get a nice bounce back here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a whole lot to overthink. The Chargers are beat up pretty good right now, but they just have more talent on offense and defense. So,
yeah, and they are first up in a stretch of what looks like about 5 just poo-poo platter games. Chicago Bears at New York Giants. Gross. Probably won't watch a snap, but I will take the Giants just because they're at home and Justin Fields has only completed like 3 passes all season.
Yeah, he hasn't been good, but I mean, again, these are 2 teams that are playing better than everyone thought they would. You're not expecting either of them to really contend for. Expect either one to contend for the playoffs or anything, most likely by the end of the season. But there's talent on the field. But yeah, I mean, I think the Giants are going to pull it off because again, Justin Fields can't throw the ball, and Daniel Jones has actually shown that he looks like an NFL quarterback, not a great one per se, but if he can be a caretaker, then just quit throwing the ball to the other team, give yourself a chance to win.
Yeah, poor Daniel Jones, man. He's just had no receiver luck. Everybody's been injured. Kadarius Toney hasn't played or barely played, and then Sterling Shepard goes out last week. It's been rough over there. Chicago might be the most shocking 2-1 team in the history of the NFL. That team's bad. Next up,
they're lucky because they played in that monsoon against San Francisco, and that's a game to where you can't take anything away from that outside. It's just fun to watch.
Right. Next up, Washington Commanders at Dallas Cowboys. Sorry, Joey Gaditza. We both picked the Cowboys. I think that they are decent. I think that they do have plenty of good skill position players. And other than a couple exciting rookie receivers, I think Washington is garbage. And Chase Young. Chase Young's good.
Yeah. Cooper Rush is doing a good job just taking care of the ball. So until he reverts to to what a backup quarterback should look like, you're still Washington Commanders that still run by Dan Snyder, and he's still playing a swamp. So
the Swamp had another pipe burst last week. Gross. Get your crap together, Commanders, or don't. I don't care. Next up, next to last on our slate of horrible games. Tennessee Titans at Indianapolis Colts. We both went with Indianapolis here. I didn't have a good reason for it. I don't have a good read on either of these teams. If Pittman's back, I think that gives them the best player on the field. Derrick Henry had some moments last week. I don't know. This could go either way for me.
Yeah, I honestly, I couldn't care less about either team. They both have looked bad all season. They both, got off the schneid last week. And, I don't know what to do with any of them, so I just picked the home team.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. If we were gambling, sometimes that would be a smart decision, but we're not. Next up, Arizona Cardinals at Carolina Panthers. Another game of 2 quarterbacks that I have no faith in. 2 head coaches that I have no faith in. I went with Carolina because, I don't know, they're at home. They don't have to travel from the West Coast. You went with Arizona. This is one of the ones we disagreed on. Sell me.
Kyler Murray is better than Baker Mayfield. Matt Rule is absolutely completely out of his depth every week. It's just some questionable play. Like, what in the hell are you doing? So I think there's a chance that he loses this game, and that's the last time he steps foot in the stadium.
That could be. He is on the short list of contenders for first coach fired for sure. I also think the counterpart in this game, Cliff Kingsbury, despite signing an extension in the offseason, is also a contender for that award. Next one could be fun, maybe. The names are fun, at least. The New England Patriots at Green Bay Packers. If this game was 3 years ago, it definitely would have been fun. I went with the Packers. I think they are just a pretty solid, pretty well-rounded team. And I think that New England is a dumpster fire. And I'm starting to wonder how long Belichick's leash is, because there is no future where I see them being contenders in the next 2 seasons after this. So I don't know.
Yeah, Packers are a 9.5 point favorite. This shouldn't be close. Green Bay still doesn't have reliable receivers, but Belichick isn't going to get fired. He can stay there as long as he wants. They could have 5-0-17 seasons, and he's still safe. They're going to put a statue of him out front. I think he's going to walk away at some point, because why do you have to deal with this bullshit when all you're doing is hurting your legacy? When you were a so-so coach before Brady, you were a great coach with Brady, and he's gone, and you're back to being a so-so coach. At some point, people are going to realize that not really the coaching, it's the players.
There is an argument to be made. I still think Belichick is probably the greatest coach of all time, but we'll save that for an off-season podcast.
He is not better than Dave Shula. Shut your dirty whore mouth.
Whoa. Spoiler alert. Now they don't need to watch the podcast to see who your favorite is. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. We both went Raiders here. I only went Raiders because 2 reasons. 1, I think they're due. And 2, because Russell Wilson is a chucklehead who probably has no actual friends in his life. That's it.
Yeah, it's well documented, our disdain for his fake persona. It's funny because they're 2-1. Las Vegas is 0-3, and Vegas is a 2.5 point favorite. Now they're at home, but still, you figure a team that two games ahead in the schedule has the better quarterback. You figure the money would be going their way, but no, I'm going with Las Vegas finally getting off the schneid.
Yeah, I hope so too. Next up, Kansas City Chiefs at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We both went Kansas City here. It would not blow my mind if Tom Brady, Mike Evans comes back this week and he has a big game and Tampa pulls it out. I think they have an incredible defense, but I think that we were more likely to see Patrick Mahomes rising to the occasion and putting up big numbers in this one.
Yeah, Tampa Bay still just really beat the hell up, and I don't even know where they're going to end up playing the game. So it's going to kill any home field advantage that Tampa would have gained. They're not going to play.
Yeah, it might be in Minneapolis.
Yeah, and Tampa's not playing. They're not playing in Tampa because of the hurricane. So, whatever home field advantage they would have gained, they're going to lose. The Chiefs have been underwhelming, but they're still the Chiefs. They're still Patrick Mahomes and his obnoxious as hell wife and brother. So,
facts and feelings.
Yes. Go Chiefs.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one, though. I'll definitely be tuning in. Last up, this one could be fun, too. Los Angeles Rams at San Francisco 49ers. I had a hard time picking this one, but I just kind of leaned towards Jimmy Garoppolo. Looked like Jimmy Garoppolo last week. Everybody was all up in arms about why they're moving over to Trey Lance, and he gets hurt and kind of helps quiet that argument. But man, Garoppolo he's limited. He's not that good, and I think that Sean McVay is going to have a scheme to take advantage of his limitations. And they got some athletes over there, so it was a tough one for me. But that's why I went Rams. Who you got?
Same thing. I'm going the Rams. They've been underwhelming as well. They're 2-1, but they got throttled by Buffalo on opening night, and then just kind of their 2 wins have been not overly inspiring. But I think they get right. Jimmy Garoppolo is fine, I guess, if everyone's hitting. If everyone else is hitting and playing well, but there's a reason that they tried to move on from him, is they wanted someone better and they wanted someone more dynamic. So,
yeah, it's gonna be a fun one though. The last game, the only other one that you and I picked differently, my Jacksonville Jaguars at Philadelphia Eagles. You went Philadelphia. I went Jacksonville because even though they ruined all my hopes and dreams the first week of the survival pool, I just can't quit them. The post-Urban Meyer bump It is addition by subtraction. Trevor Lawrence is looking like the prospect we were promised. And they're a lot of fun, man. They've got a couple good running backs. They got a couple good receivers. Defense is flying around. I don't think in my heart of hearts that they are better than the Eagles, but I just saw that we had picked so many games the exact same that I had to get weird with this one and go with my Jags.
I mean, you're dying on the hill with the Jags. And Eagles, they're good. I don't think they're as good as they've been playing. They're due for a letdown game. I don't foresee it happening this week. They're at Philly, and there's plenty of batteries to be stocked up on to be chucked at. If since Santa Claus isn't coming around, you can chuck them at the Jags instead. I think it's going to be probably an entertaining game, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags won. But again, Philly's undefeated for a reason. They're playing well.
Yeah, you're probably right, but I don't care. Jags are Bengals South for me, unless they have to play each other, and it ever matters at all. In that case, screw you, Jags. Yeah, well, like I said, that will about do it for us. We have run much longer than I expected because we just like hanging out, and we like when you guys hang out with us. To do that, please oh yeah, shoot. Joe, thank you for reminding me. We almost left off viewer mail. We have not taken up enough of your time yet. We only have 3 questions this week. So we do viewer mail. It's something that we did over the Riverfront Reds podcast, and we're bringing it over here. We just have a lot of fun with it. To ask viewer mail questions, you can text them to @NC.Dotson32. Tweet them, not text them. You can join our Patreon family. That is patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, where we talk about Reds, we talk about Bengals, we talk about random stuff, concerts, music, fantasy sports, FC Cincinnati. We're talking about it all over there. And you get some other fun swag merch and other perks with more coming. And then last off, you can always just email us, team@riverfrontcincy. We will pick a handful of the best one, team@riverfrontcincy.com. So let's get right into it. First one comes from the aforementioned Canadian, Joey Gaditza. He said, "This is awesome, guys. Football viewer mail. I have no question yet, but just stoked to listen to the pod." Thanks, Joey.
Awesome.
We're stoked to have you.
Thanks.
Boom, plot twist. He said, "Okay, fine. Commanders' final record. What say you guys?" I went with 6-11, and I looked at their schedule. That's being pretty generous. I wanted to give them some wins just to send the good vibes up north to Joey. I don't know. That team's gross. 6 wins might be too many. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, his Saskatchewan Roughriders are having a rough season, so I don't want to pile on, but I really don't care. I wish that they could go 0-17 every season. Dan Snyder's just a gross human being. They're not without talent, but I was actually going to be on I was on 6-11 myself. I didn't even go do as much homework as to look at their schedule. Just throwing out a random number that seems commensurate with their talent level.
Well, you nailed it. Next up, from Sydney Price, who do y'all recommend the Bengals sign to take DJ Reader's spot? Anybody specific come to mind, Joe?
I don't think they're going to sign anybody. Like I said, they've got the 2 defensive tackles on the practice squad. They don't even need to sign them or call them up. You can just elevate one day of game. So I think they're just going to do that for a few weeks, play the hot hand. If someone if Dominique Davis has say he's the one called up for tomorrow, if he has a good game, then they'll just play with him next week. So I don't expect any roster moves so.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think they're going to fill from within. I heard Zach Carter mentioned as possibly getting some of those snaps too. I did do a quick Google dive and found out that Linval Joseph made a couple Pro Bowls. He's a free agent. Former Pittsburgh Steeler Steve McClendon is also a free agent. And then former Kentucky Wildcat Corey Peters is on the Jaguars practice squad. So if they can lure him away, I don't know. People in Cincinnati like the Wildcats.
Do we?
Some of them.
People, yeah, that's called Northern Kentucky.
There's
the Kentucky part.
Listen, the Kentucky border is why I am a Cincinnati sports fan. So forgive them this once.
Still holding on to the fact that Kentucky was part of Virginia and part of your territory, your ancestral home.
Hey, originally almost all of North America was part of Virginia, so we're taking it back.
True.
Our last question, and awesome one to end on, is from Seth Shaner. Seth, friend of the show. How amazing is the crowd going to be tomorrow night? I hope the team plays well and they get to enjoy the atmosphere. It'll be lit, as the kids say. Joe, you're going to be nearby. You're going to hear it. Is it going to be lit? Are your kids saying that it's going to be lit?
I'd have to ask him right now to see if he thinks it's going to be lit. He's going to be sitting next to me on the couch watching the game. It'll be a loud, raucous crowd. It'll be probably one of the cooler scenes at a Bengals game in a long time, even counting the playoff wins, just because of all the hype with the new helmet and the redesign, restriping the fields and everything. Ring of Honor inductions, Thursday night primetime game under the lights. It'll definitely be rocking. So Jungle will be alive.
Absolutely. And I don't know if it's going to be lit, but it will be the bee's knees because we're pretty hip around here. But I teased it earlier.
The bees have knees.
This time, we've got to get the heck out of here. Guys, it's been fun. Joe, any parting thoughts?
Who day, as always. Who day every day.
Who day. Let's go. It's going to be a fun one tomorrow. Y'all, we are everywhere you listen to podcasts, anywhere and everywhere. We are now running on a separate feed from the Riverfront Baseball show that you're used to, that we have been popping up in. So please share, follow, like, subscribe, do all of the things. We'll still be on YouTube, youtube.com/RiverfrontCincy. Wake your kids up if they're asleep. If they're not, they're in school. Go get them out of school. Make them subscribe and follow too, because you got priorities. It's important. We need to do this for the people. I am Nate Dotson. He is Joe Farsing. We're having a blast. And for Willie Anderson, good night.